Too late at any age to hold up.
Good morning and welcome to the Indy Boomer Show. I'm Mary Pat McKee and I publish a magazine called Indy Boomer, and I have the pleasure of sitting here this morning with Laura Roman from Westminister Village North, and we are going to talk about some myths about staying at home. But before we do, that is Jim Davis. That is our January issue of Indy Boomer Magazine. You are welcome to pick them up at any Kroger or Marsh store in Indianapolis and the surrounding counties. Want everybody to know, on Friday the new issue will be here. I'm very excited.
Yay.
It's Two Chicks and a Hammer from the HGTV Good Bones show will be on our cover, so be sure and look for that. Also, we'd like to thank Logan Street Signs and Banners.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Logan Street Signs and Banners in Noblesville Trophy. Actually, I was going to say Jim Wofford, and I thought, well, nobody knows who Jim is, but they do know who Logan Street Signs and Banners are. So, anyway, I'm trying to fix my faux pas there. So, anyway, shall we jump in? Let's talk first. Where's Westminster Village North, so people know?
Yeah, Westminster Village North is a retirement community at 63rd and Sunnyside.
Okay.
So this is south of Geist
Right.
on the northeast side of Indianapolis.
Right, exactly. Been there for many, many years.
45 years.
Beautiful facility.
It is a beautiful facility. It was the former Indianapolis Tuberculosis Hospital,
Yeah.
and so our grounds are very historic, beautiful old trees. It is a beautiful location.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love all the trees. It's just
Thank
beautiful.
you.
And the other thing that's really cool about their campus is you guys go from, do you have independent living?
Yes.
I know you've got the houses, which are really cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have independent living in houses. We have independent living in apartments.
Okay.
Assisted living, and we're building a brand new assisted living building.
Are you really?
To be open in November. I'm very excited by that. The apartments look beautiful. I had a hard hat tour the other day. And then we have a health center, and our health center is short-term rehabilitation and long-term care.
Okay.
And then also we do serve memory care, people who have Alzheimer's or dementia, and we have 2 levels of care. So really,
For the dementia, for the memory care?
yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, we're a little unique in that.
Yeah, I was going to say sometime we're going to talk about that because I'm not familiar with the 2-level thing.
Yes.
But today we're going to talk about the myths of staying at home. Is that
The
appropriate?
myths of retirement communities, yeah. So
Okay.
the benefit of retirement communities or the myths of living in your home.
Okay, yeah, because I do think there's a lot, I guess, I'm thinking in my mind, there's a lot of people always want to stay at home, but they don't realize what they're really missing.
That's exactly right.
So anyway, I have to, because I'm a boomer, my current home will be the best place to live in retirement. That's a big one.
That is a big one, and that is something that we all kind of feel as I have, got my house to where I love it right now.
Yep.
But there's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
There's roofs. There's furnace. I got to put a new furnace in.
No, that's exciting.
And so, all of those years that I've spent now working, when I get to the retirement place, I'd really rather do those things that I want to do instead of worry about taking care of my home, instead of worry about the maintenance and the cost associated with that.
Right.
I want to go play golf. I want to travel.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with family and loved ones. I want to go out for dinner and spend my money and my things that way.
Right, yeah, and that makes sense. Also, my current home is the best option to lead an active life and stay connected with friends.
Yeah, so that's a really tough one because so many of us have lived in our home for a long time, and maybe our neighbors are our great friends, and or our friends are used to coming to our home, and yet something happens somewhere along the way where our neighbors move,
Yeah,
our neighbors become infirmed.
yes.
Our friends, maybe one in a couple passes away, and then the whole dynamic changes.
Yes.
And so we often find that people are in their home and isolated.
Yeah.
And
I think that is a big one.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. I'm going to look at my notes here because I want to make sure I get this correct. But I read an article and it said among those people who are aged 80 and over, nearly half of them report being lonely.
Yes.
And that's about twice as much as people who are younger. But then it went on to say that being isolated and lonely, I want to quote this, is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day.
Oh my goodness.
And as dangerous as being an alcoholic, as harmful as never exercising, and is twice as dangerous as obesity. So the effects of loneliness on our health long term
Yes.
is unbelievable.
Right.
And of course, that's what a retirement community provides. It provides a sense of community with people who are of like ages
Right.
and have similar histories.
Right.
And we see people come together who never knew each other, but who become the best of friends. In fact, I think about two ladies who ended up moving next to each other when both of their spouses passed away. And I was speaking to one the other day, and she said, Emily is God sent. And she said, I know that she was sent to me to help me through this difficult time. And they both feel that way. And so you see them together all the time. So these friendships that are forged
Right.
are amazing. And not to replace long-term friendships,
Right.
but they certainly are as active as long-term friendships.
Well, and another thing too, when in any relationship, when you all are close to the same age, there's things that happen in your generation or in your time that they can relate to that maybe people 10 or 15 years younger can't.
And we see that a lot. There are the people who were veterans, and let's face it, the veterans from the silent generation don't talk about their war experience with you and me, but they do amongst each other, and that's really healing for many of them. Or there are homemakers women who at that time stayed at home, and so there's shared community there. There are we have a large group of people who worked in the medical field, and these people meet for dinner once a month. And they can kind of share what it was like back in the day when they were in medical school or in nurses' school and working in the hospitals, which were very different than they are today.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So we have a group of 3 gentlemen who came together because they all had a passion for model airplanes. Those model airplanes that you go out to the parking lot and fly around?
Yeah.
And so the 3 of them have created their own club, and they go do that. Now, they wouldn't have met, maybe.
If they'd stayed in their home.
If they had stayed in their home.
I would guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I watched the people at Westminster Village North. They live a far more active life than I live. And I see smiles on their faces and a genuine community. Recently, we had a little get together, and people, when we asked them, why did you come to Westminster? It was interesting. It was really centered around, I needed to be part of something. I wanted to be part of a group of people who had similar history.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I got to tell you that I like about Laura is that she actually loves the people that are in
I
your
do.
facility.
I do.
And it shows through every single time.
Yeah, I do.
Let's go on to the next. Living in my home is less expensive.
Well, 84% of people who are 65 years old and older have paid off their home.
Yeah. I'm not one of them. But
I'm not one of them either. But that's what the details, or that's what the
I
facts
believe it.
say.
I do believe it because a lot of people stay in their homes for 30 years.
Right, but having no mortgage feels really wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
But if you've stayed in your home that long, there are other expenses that come with it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the furnace that I'm facing this summer.
Yeah.
There's a roof. There are taxes. There are insurance. And so the cost of staying in your home is still quite high.
It doesn't go away just because the mortgage does.
And if you look at the cost of food and entertainment, and these are all things that are provided in retirement communities, it really is wise for someone to sit down and really look at what it costs them.
Right.
Again,
Really compare apples to apples.
compare apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to note that retirement communities such as Westminster, there is a tax benefit for the monthly service fees and the amortization that is very significant. It's considered a prepaid medical expense because we're a continuing care retirement community. So you're paying into.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's good
it's
to-
significant. This past year, I want to quote this, it was 48.91% of what they paid was tax deductible.
Really?
Half,
You know,
nearly
nobody
half.
has ever talked about that.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that my accountant, when I went to him to do my taxes, he said to me, Westminster is the only community that actually gives me a number. He said the other communities, I know that it's there,
All right.
but they don't quote what that is. And so our chief financial officer does a lot of work to ensure that we're providing our residents the most accurate information on what they can actually claim on their taxes.
Right.
That's significant.
Yeah, but 50%, that's unheard of.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you sure can't do that in your house.
No.
And especially if you paid it off, you don't even have the interest deduction anymore.
There you go. There you go.
That's why I don't want to pay mine off.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just kidding.
among other reasons for me.
Okay. Well, let's go on. That was a good one. Can I get any care I might need at home?
Yeah, so this is absolutely a true statement. You know,
Yes.
you can have home care come to
Yes,
your home.
you can.
But remember what we talked about a minute ago about isolation?
Yes.
When you are more infirmed and you need home care coming to your house, that might be the only interaction you have.
Yes.
You're unable to go out. You're unable to maybe have as many visitors. And typically what happens then is family becomes more involved in your care.
Yes.
Having been in this situation myself, I had children at home and I had parents who both needed care at the same time.
Yeah.
And
They call you the sandwich generation.
that's the sandwich generation. You're absolutely right. But what that means then is the stress that puts on
Oh, yeah.
the
It's a lot of
caregivers.
stress, yeah.
and we see oftentimes where the caregivers then become ill themselves. They're carrying
Yep.
too much of a load.
Heard that many times.
And yet what do we feel? We feel guilt that we cannot provide all of the care that our parents need because they provided all the care we needed when
Right.
we were young.
Exactly.
And so, or in a situation where one family member may be able to provide more care than another family member. Siblings.
Oh, I see that all the time, too.
And you do see that all the time. And
Yeah.
I see that when people come in and it's like, well, I've been caring for mom and my sister doesn't have the time and things like that. So it creates some tension in
Fraction, yeah,
families.
yeah,
It
yeah.
fractures families at a time that's really at an important time for people to be together.
Right.
You know, at our later years in life, we really don't want to find reasons to create chasms between us.
Right.
So, you know, aside from just the cost of home care,
Right.
and again, if you do this cost comparison, kind of the relationship and the damage that can be done to a relationship is very important to consider in that as
Yeah.
well. And then the isolation situation.
Well, I can speak to that. I drive occasionally. I substitute for Meals on Wheels.
Do you?
And some of the people, the only person they see is that driver,
Yes.
or is me, and that's really sad if that's all they see is me all day. But
Yes.
no, but you know, understand what I'm saying is that, and I see loneliness in a lot of that. So. Yeah.
And I think
You
the thing
speak
that
the truth.
Yeah, I totally speak the truth. I'm telling you, I see with our residents who, you know, I work in their home, is the way I look at it. But I see that they have the ability to spend as much time together as they want. They have the ability to
To go back in their room and hang out by
go back
themselves.
to their
Yeah.
apartment and have that life as well.
Exactly.
And so, you know, I look at it and I say, wow, it's kind of like college. It's kind of like if, you know, I had somebody tell me one time that when somebody is looking for a retirement community, they should go back to when they were visiting college campuses. if they went to college, and that they might have reached a point where they walked onto a campus and said, I can see myself there.
Right.
And I experienced that with my son. We went to a campus, Miami of Ohio, and I was like, oh, look at how beautiful this is. Look at everybody wearing their khaki pants and their polo shirts and everything. And as I looked at my son, who I adore with all of my heart, in his blue jeans, t-shirts, and Birkenstocks, he's like, Mom, these are not my people.
Yeah.
Now, when he walked on the IU campus, he felt at home,
was at
and
home.
so that so it made sense. It makes sense
No,
to
and
me.
that is true. It's almost like buying a house too. When you buy a house, you walk in and you kind of know if it's the
Figure
right
out
feeling.
where you can put the Christmas tree. That's what they
No.
always say.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's move on to the last one here. Retirement centers. Retirement centers are for people who are sick and dying, and that is a real big myth.
Oh my gosh! And this just makes my heart hurt and my blood boil.
Yeah.
And yet I get it. When I was young, we went to the nursing home to
Yeah.
visit my great aunts. And when we walked into those places, they were sterile environments, green, funny color of green walls, and they might have
didn't
smelled
smell
bad.
very good. Yeah,
They
that's the
might
part I
have smelled
remember.
bad,
Yeah.
and you saw these stern-looking people who had white outfits on, and they were scary to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I feel like many people in our generation still
Still
have that
stigma,
mentality,
yeah.
that stigma of what a retirement community. And so I'm here to really say it's worth an hour to go visit one and see the difference.
Yeah. I really hate when people use the word nursing home.
I do too.
I always correct them and say, no, it's a retirement facility.
Yes.
So
Yes. And you know, I have my best friend who said I could never put my mother in a home, and used the word home as such a bad word, and yet it's not at all what it is.
Right.
So you know, today, continuing care retirement communities, which is what Westminster is, and not all retirement areas are continuing care. So I want to make sure that I clarify what that is.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Homes, apartments, assisted living, health center for short-term or long-term care,
Right.
and memory care. That is a continuing care retirement community. The
Right.
new word is life plan community. I personally don't like it as well. I don't think it's as
No.
descriptive, but that's
Well, and
my
what
personal-
continuum of care means is that if you come in, let's say, on that independent level, and as life progresses, and maybe you fall down or you have something happen, you can still stay within that community
Right.
instead of moving from one place to another.
And let's face it, the older we get, the harder change is.
Yes.
I can tell you that from
I think we were
experience.
talking about that before we started.
That's right. But the harder change is, and put on top of that maybe I've just had a life experience that was traumatic to me, and now I have to move. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So we have some residents who I think said it well. They said, this is the gift I gave to my daughter. I made the decision of where I wanted to live in my senior years. And this couple, they get their 10,000 steps in every day. They get
Really?
on
They
the
do
bus.
better than I do.
I know. They get on the bus and they go on all of the activities. They participate in everything. I'll tell you, it's coming up. We have our seniors are getting ready to go on the St. Patty's Day pub crawl, where
Can I go?
Every year I say I'm going to take the day off and go with them, because I always get on the bus and wave goodbye as they've got their funny hats and they've got their beads and light
yeah.
up things. And when they go to some of the Irish pubs around town, they're always so welcomed because people expect them each year.
Right.
And they are so fun and so adorable. So yeah, I stay home on St. Patty's Day and they're out having a fun time. But yeah, the retirement community, I say to people, invest that hour. Go find one that's near you and see what it's really all about.
Yeah.
You know, a continuing care retirement community is different than a retirement
Yes.
community. Sometimes there are senior apartments.
Yes.
Sometimes there are senior housing areas or condos or things like that. Or sometimes there's a standalone assisted living community. But really, this makes sense to me.
Right.
Let me move to an area where my address will basically stay the same,
Right.
where the people who I see are the people who I've known,
Right.
where my neighbors remain the same, where my family knows where I am, where I feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and let me spend the last years of my life in that environment.
Right.
I'm here to say that I also think people should look at not-for-profit. Westminster has a foundation, and of course there are some requirements, financial requirements for coming in, but if you look at a not-for-profit and that has a foundation, as we do, if you run out of money, if your assets are depleted, you don't move out. You're part
Right.
of our family and we care for you.
Okay.
And so to me
That's another topic for another time.
it's
I
a
think.
very big topic
Yeah.
because we've all heard the horror stories of great Aunt Nellie who's in the nursing home, runs out of money, and then has to move somewhere else. And that's tragic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My only hope is, and my thought is that a lot of baby boomers are doing these things for their parents.
Yes.
So when it becomes our time, hopefully a long time, but when it does come our time, we will understand a lot more about this, and we'll
Yes.
understand that this is not a nursing home. This is a retirement facility with activities and things to do, and things to make your last, as you said, last year's enjoyable.
Well, and the reality is we have had, in the past year, we had 4 people who are under the age of 70 move into our community. I look at them and I say, how smart they are.
Yeah.
You know what? Because they're going to Florida, they're traveling, they're doing all of these things without worry about their home,
Right.
without worry about what their, their future and things. So, one of the best gifts that you can also do is to do it while you can still enjoy it.
Yeah.
We have a resident who moved in after his spouse passed away. He's now 93, adorable man, and he said, man, I wish Betty and I would have come here when we were in our 70s.
Yeah.
We would have enjoyed it together.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hindsight's 20/20. Don't let it be that way for you.
That's
Hey,
right.
we've got to go. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you, Laura. for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
letting me share my passion.
Hey, no problem. We enjoy hearing about it. Also, once again, there is the cover of the January issue of Indy Boomer Magazine. It is in any Kroger or Mars store in Indianapolis and the surrounding areas. Be sure and pick one up. Also, don't forget, on Sundays we have Boomer TV with Patty Spiller on Channel 8 at 10:30. Excuse me. So great. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.